Captain Jake Morrison stood at the window of his quarters, watching the stars drift by outside. His hands shook slightly as he held his coffee cup. 3 years. 3 long years fighting the bug-like aliens called Zephyrians. 3 years of watching good soldiers die under his command. 3 years of making choices that kept him awake at night. The war was over now. The Zephyrians had surrendered after Jake led the final attack on their main hive world. Everyone called him a hero. The news reports said he was the greatest military mind of his generation. The Galactic Coalition Council wanted to give him medals and honors, and anything his heart desired. All Jake wanted was some peace and quiet. He walked to his desk and picked up the official letter that had arrived that morning. The fancy writing made his head hurt, but the meaning was clear. The council wanted to thank him for his service. They would give him any reward he asked for. Money, land, a position of power, anything at all. Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. He had seen enough death and destruction to last 10 lifetimes. He had given orders that sent thousands of young men and women to their deaths. He had made tactical decisions that saved millions of lives, but cost him pieces of his soul. What did a broken soldier want as a reward? Jake sat down at his communication terminal and began typing his response. The words came slowly at first, then faster as he realized what he truly wanted. To the honorable members of the Galactic Coalition Council, he wrote, I am grateful for your offer of reward for my service during the Zephyrian conflict. After much consideration, I have decided. What I would like most, he paused, feeling foolish. But the feeling in his chest was real. The loneliness that had eaten at him for years. The need for something simple and pure in his life. I would like a pet, he continued typing. Something small and peaceful. Something I can care for that will not ask me to make life or death decisions. Something that will simply be happy to see me when I come home each day. Thank you for your consideration. Jake sent the message before he could change his mind. He knew the council members would think he was crazy. The great war hero Jake Morrison wanted a pet instead of wealth or power. Let them think what they wanted. He was tired of caring what other people thought. 2 weeks later, Jake received a reply. The message was brief and formal. His request had been approved. A junior diplomat named Kyle Bennett had been assigned to handle the details. Jake would receive his companion within the month. Jake felt something like hope for the first time in years. Maybe a dog, he thought, or a cat. Something warm and alive that would greet him with simple affection. Something that would help fill the empty spaces in his quarters and his heart. Kyle Bennett was 24 years old and fresh out of the diplomatic academy. He had never handled a request from someone as important as Captain Morrison. The pressure made him nervous, and nervous people made mistakes. Bennett sat at his desk, staring at the request form on his screen. A pet for the war hero. It seemed simple enough. He opened the Galactic Species database and began searching for suitable companion animals. The problem was that pet meant different things to different species. What humans called pets, other aliens might call food, servants, or even sacred beings. Bennett had to find something that would satisfy a human's need for companionship. He scrolled through pages of creatures from dozens of worlds. Furry things, scaly things, things that glowed in the dark. Nothing seemed right for someone as important as Jake Morrison. The captain deserved something special, something worthy of his status. Bennett's eyes stopped on an entry that made him pause. Vorthik. The database listed them as highly intelligent, loyal, and devoted to their chosen companions. Perfect, he thought. Intelligent enough to understand the captain's needs, loyal enough to provide lasting companionship. Bennett did not read the full entry. If he had, he would have learned that Vorthik were not animals at all, but a sentient species with their own culture and civilization. He would have learned that they had recently been conquered by the Zephyrians, and that the survivors were refugees in Coalition Space. Instead, Bennett saw only what he wanted to see. He filled out the requisition forms and submitted them through official channels. Within days, a transport ship was dispatched to collect a Vorthig female from a refugee camp on the edge of Coalition space. Lyra had been hiding in the lower levels of the refugee camp for 3 months. She was weak from hunger and fear. The Zephyrians had destroyed her world, killed her family, and scattered her people across the galaxy. She had managed to escape in a refugee ship, but she knew it was only a matter of time before someone decided she was too dangerous to keep alive. Vorthig looked like the vampires from human stories. They were pale, with sharp teeth and glowing eyes. They needed blood to survive, which made other species nervous. Most refugees avoided her, and the camp guards watched her with suspicion. When the Coalition soldiers came for her, Lyra thought her time had run out. They put her in a transport pod without explanation. She was too weak to resist and too frightened to ask questions. She curled up in the corner of the pod and waited for whatever fate awaited her. The transport ship flew for 3 days. Lyra was given water but no food. She grew weaker with each passing hour. When the ship finally docked, she could barely stand. The pod was loaded onto a cargo transport and delivered to Harmony Point, a Coalition space station. Lyra heard voices outside the pod, but she could not understand what they were saying. The pod was moved several times before finally coming to rest. Then there was silence. Jake Morrison had spent the day in meetings with station commanders and Coalition officials. Everyone wanted to know his plans for the future. Would he accept another command? Would he consider a position in the Coalition government? Would he write a book about his experiences? Jake gave polite answers and tried to hide his irritation. All he wanted was to go back to his quarters and wait for his pet to arrive. The transport was scheduled to dock that evening, and Jake found himself looking forward to the arrival more than he had looked forward to anything in years. When Jake finally returned to his quarters, he found a large containment pod waiting for him in the main room. The pod was sealed and marked with official Coalition shipping labels. Jake felt a flutter of excitement as he approached the control panel. He pressed the release button and stepped back as the pod opened with a soft hiss. Steam escaped from the interior, and Jake waited for it to clear so he could see his new companion. What he saw made him freeze in shock. Inside the pod was not a small, furry animal. It was a woman. She was pale, almost white, with long dark hair and wearing torn refugee clothing. She was curled up in the corner of the pod, shaking with fear or cold or both. Jake's first thought was that there had been a terrible mistake. His second thought was that the woman looked like she was dying. "Hey," he said softly, not wanting to startle her. "Are you okay?" The woman looked up at him with glowing yellow eyes. When she opened her mouth to speak, Jake saw the sharp fangs that marked her as something other than human. "Please," she whispered in broken galactic standard. "Please do not hurt me." Jake stared at her for a long moment, his mind racing. This was not the pet he had requested. This was a person, a sentient being who had been delivered to him like a package. The Coalition had made a mistake, but that mistake had put this woman in danger. Jake made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, crouching down to her level. "My name is Jake. What's yours?" The woman stared at him with those strange glowing eyes. "Lyra," she whispered. "Okay, Lyra," Jake said gently. "Let's get you out of there and figure out what's going on." As he helped her from the pod, Jake realized that the Council had kept their promise after all. They had given him something to care for. It just was not what anyone had expected. Jake watched Lyra carefully as she sat on the edge of his couch. She had not moved much in the past hour, just sat there with her hands folded in her lap, staring at the floor. Every few minutes, she would glance at him quickly, then look away. When their eyes met, he had tried to explain that there had been a mistake, that he had asked for a pet animal, not a person, that he would contact the council and get this sorted out. But Lyra only nodded and said nothing. Jake was starting to think she did not believe him. "Are you hungry?" Jake asked. "I have some food in the kitchen." Lyra shook her head quickly. "No food," she said in her broken galactic standard. "Not eat your food." Jake frowned. "Why not?" "When was the last time you ate?" Lyra looked at him with those strange yellow eyes. "Vorthik not eat same food as humans," she said quietly. "We need ... different food." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard stories about the Vorthik during the war. The Zephyrians had used them as shock troops before conquering their homeworld. They were supposed to be dangerous, bloodthirsty creatures. But looking at Lyra now, all he saw was a frightened woman who looked like she had not eaten in weeks. "What kind of food do you need?" Jake asked. Lyra's hands trembled slightly. "You will not like," she whispered. "Try me." Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked up at him with fear in her eyes. "Blood," she said. "Vorthik need blood to live." Jake felt his stomach turn slightly, but he kept his expression calm. "Okay," he said. "We can work with that. Let me contact the medical bay." Lyra stared at him in shock. "You ... you not angry?" "Why would I be angry?" Jake asked. "It's not your fault. That's what you need to survive." Jake walked to his communication terminal and called the medical bay. Dr. Lisa Grant answered on the second ring. She was a tall woman with gray hair and kind eyes who had treated Jake's wounds more times than he could count. "Jake, what can I do for you?" "I need a favor, Lisa. I have a Vorthik woman in my quarters who needs blood to survive. Can you provide some?" There was a long pause. "Jake, did you just say you have a Vorthik in your quarters?" "It's a long story. Can you help or not?" "I'll have to check the regulations. Give me a few minutes." Jake ended the call and turned back to Lyra. She was watching him with wide eyes. "She will help?" Lyra asked. "She'll try," Jake said. "Lisa's good people." 20 minutes later, Jake's door chimed. He opened it to find Dr. Grant standing in the hallway with a concerned expression and a medical bag in her hand. "Jake, we need to talk," she said as she entered the room. She stopped short when she saw Lyra. Oh my. Lyra had curled up into a ball on the couch, trying to make herself as small as possible. She looked up at Dr. Grant with terrified eyes. "She's scared," Jake said quietly. "The Zephyrians destroyed her world. She's been in a refugee camp for months." Dr. Grant's expression softened. She had seen enough war refugees to recognize the signs of trauma. She approached Lyra slowly, the way she would approach a frightened animal. "Hello," she said gently. "I'm Dr. Grant. I'm here to help." Lyra looked at Jake, then back at Dr. Grant. "You have blood?" she whispered. "I have synthetic blood plasma," Dr. Grant said. "It should work for your species." She opened her medical bag and pulled out several pouches of dark red liquid. "How long has it been since you last fed?" "Many days," Lyra admitted. "Maybe 2 weeks." Dr. Grant's eyes widened. 2 weeks? How are you still alive?" "Vorthik can survive long time without food," Lyra said. "But not forever." Dr. Grant handed her one of the pouches. Lyra took it with shaking hands and drank quickly. The change was immediate. Color returned to her pale cheeks, and she sat up. "Straighter. Better?" Dr. Grant asked. Lyra nodded. "Thank you," she said. "You are kind." Dr. Grant looked at Jake. "We need to talk privately." Jake led her to the kitchen, where they could speak without Lyra hearing. Jake, what the hell is going on? Dr. Grant asked. How did you end up with a Vorthic refugee in your quarters? Jake explained about his request for a pet and the apparent mix-up. Dr. Grant listened with growing disbelief. You asked for a pet, and they gave you a person? That's about the size of it, Jake said. Jake, you have to return her to refugee processing. I can't just provide blood to every alien on the station. She's not every alien, Jake said. She's my responsibility now. Your responsibility? Jake, she's not actually a pet. She's a sentient being with rights. I know that, Jake said. But look at her. She's terrified and half-starved. You think refugee processing is going to take better care of her than I am? Dr. Grant was quiet for a moment. The regulations say I can only provide medical supplies for station personnel and their dependents. Then make her my dependent, Jake said. It doesn't work that way. Then find a way to make it work, Jake said. Please, Lisa, I'm not asking you to break any laws. I'm asking you to help someone who needs it. Dr. Grant sighed. I'll see what I can do. But Jake, this is going to cause problems. People are already talking about you having a Vorthic in your quarters. Let them talk. After Dr. Grant left, Jake sat down across from Lyra. She was holding the empty blood pouch, looking much better than she had an hour ago. Thank you, she said. You saved my life. Don't thank me yet, Jake said. We still need to figure out what to do about this situation. You? Send me back to refugee camp? Lyra asked. There was resignation in her voice, as if she expected it. I don't know, Jake said honestly. I asked for a pet, not a person. This whole thing is a mistake. Lyra nodded slowly. I understand. Vorthic are not pets. We are people. Then why did they send you to me? Lyra shrugged. Maybe they think Vorthic are animals. Many species think this. We look like monsters from human stories. Jake studied her face. She did look like the vampires from old Earth legends, but there was intelligence in her eyes and sadness in her expression. She was clearly a person, not a monster. What did you do before the war? Jake asked. I was teacher, Lyra said. I teach young Vorthic about other species. I study humans, actually. Very interesting species. You studied humans? Yes, humans are very strange. Most species run from danger. Humans run toward danger to protect others. Very confusing. Jake almost smiled. Yeah, we're pretty stupid that way. Not stupid, Lyra sighed. Brave. Vorthic understand brave. We also protect those who cannot protect themselves. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Jake found himself studying Lyra's face. She was not human, but there was something about her that reminded him of the soldiers he had commanded. She had the same look of someone who had seen too much. Pain and loss. Jake, Lyra said quietly. Yeah? Why you not afraid of me? Other humans see Vorthic and run away. You give me food and help me. Jake thought about it. I've seen real monsters, he said finally. The Zephyrians were monsters. They killed without mercy, destroyed entire worlds for resources. You're not like them. How you know? Because monsters don't say please when they're scared. They don't. Thank people for helping them. They don't care about being a burden to others. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. I am burden to you. No, Jake said firmly. You're not a burden. You're a person who needs help. There's a difference. Jake's door chimed again. This time it was Lieutenant Commander Steve Hayes, Jake's former second-in-command. Steve was a big man with a serious face and a no-nonsense attitude. Jake, we need to talk, Steve said as he entered the room. He stopped when he saw Lyra. Is it true? Did the council really send you a Vorthic? It's complicated, Jake said. Steve looked at Lyra with suspicion. Jake, people are talking. They're saying you have a vampire in your quarters. Some of them are worried about security. She's not a threat, Jake said. She's a Vorthik, Steve said. They're predators. Lyra stood up suddenly. I go now, she said to Jake. I not want to cause trouble. Sit down, Jake said gently. You're not going anywhere. Jake, Steve said, be reasonable. You can't keep her here. What if she attacks someone? She won't, Jake said. How do you know? Jake looked at Lyra, who was standing by the couch looking ready to run. Because I trust her. Steve shook his head. The council is going to hear about this. They might use it to question your judgment. Let them, Jake said. I've made my decision. After Steve left, Jake turned to Lyra. Are you okay? Lyra nodded, but she looked shaken. Your friend not like me. Steve's just worried. About me, Jake said. He's not a bad person. He think I am monster. He doesn't know you like I do. Lyra looked at him with those strange yellow eyes. You barely know me. I know enough, Jake said. I know you're scared and alone and trying to survive. I know. You're polite and grateful, and you don't want to be a burden. That's enough for me. Lyra sat back down on the couch. What happens now? Jake sat down beside her. Now we figure out how to make this work. You need a place to stay, and I need something to care about that isn't related to war or death or making impossible decisions. You think I can be that? I think we can help each other, Jake said. If you want to stay. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. I want to stay, she said finally. But I not want to cause problems for you. You won't, Jake said. We'll figure it out together. As they sat there in the quiet of Jake's quarters, both of them damaged by war and loss, neither one fully understood what they were agreeing to. But for the first time in months, neither of them felt completely alone. 2 weeks had passed since Lyra arrived at Jake's quarters. She was still nervous around other people, but she had begun to relax when it was just the two of them. Jake had learned to move slowly around her and speak softly. Lyra had learned that Jake meant what he said when he promised not to hurt her. They had developed a simple routine. Jake would bring her synthetic blood from Dr. Grant each morning. Lyra would sit quietly while Jake worked at his desk, reading reports or answering messages from Coalition Command. In the evenings, they would sit together and try to communicate. Jake was learning that Lyra was much smarter than he had first thought. She spoke 3 different alien languages besides her native Vorthik. She had studied human culture and history before the war destroyed her world. She knew things about Earth that surprised even Jake. Your people very strange, Lyra said one evening as they sat in Jake's small living area. You have wars, but you also have music and art and stories about love. All people have wars, Jake said. What makes humans strange? Most species fight for resources or territory, Lyra explained. Humans fight for ideas. You fight for freedom, for justice, for people you never met on worlds you never seen. Jake thought about that. Is that good or bad? Both, Lyra said. It make humans very dangerous, but also very, how you say, noble. What about your people? What are Vorthik like? Lyra's expression grew sad. Vorthik are old species. We value knowledge and family. We protect our young and care for our elders. We study other species because we want to understand them, not conquer them. That sounds peaceful. We were peaceful, Lyra said. That's why Zephyrians defeated us so easily. We had no armies, no weapons of war. We had only teachers and healers and artists. Jake felt a surge of anger at the thought of the insect-like Zephyrians destroying such a peaceful people. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry we didn't get there in time to save your world. Lyra looked at him with surprise. You feel guilt for this? I was the one leading the campaign against the Zephyrians. If I had been faster, smarter, maybe your people would still be alive. Jake Morrison, Lyra said seriously, you cannot save everyone. You cannot fight every battle. You save many worlds, many people. My people understand this. They were interrupted by an urgent alarm sound echoing through the station. Jake's communication terminal immediately lit up with emergency messages. All personnel to emergency stations, came the announcement over the station speakers. Security. Breach in detention level 7. Repeat, security breach in detention level 7. Jake jumped to his feet. Stay here, he told Lyra. Lock the door behind me and don't open it for anyone but me. What is happening? Lyra asked, fear creeping into her voice. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Jake grabbed his sidearm and headed for the door. As he reached for the handle, his terminal chimed with an incoming message from Captain Nicole Murphy, the station commander. Jake, we have a situation. A transport carrying Zephyrian prisoners malfunctioned during transfer. 6 of them escaped into the station's lower levels. We need you down here. Jake's blood ran cold. Zephyrians on the station meant danger for everyone, but especially for Lyra. The insect-like aliens had a particular hatred for the Vorthic after using them as slave soldiers. I'll be right there, Jake said into the terminal. He turned to Lyra. Listen to me carefully. There are Zephyrians loose on the station. They hate your people. You need to hide. Lyra's face went white. How many? 6, maybe more. Jake opened a panel in the wall and pulled out a small emergency beacon. Take this. If something happens to me, press the red button. It will call for help. Jake, no. You should not go. Let other soldiers handle this. I can't do that. These are my people, my responsibility. Jake paused at the door. I'll come back for you. I promise. Jake left his quarters and made his way quickly to the detention level. The corridors were filled with security personnel and worried-looking civilians. Jake found Captain Murphy coordinating search teams near the main security office. Status. Report, Jake said as he approached. 6 Zephyrian warriors, Murphy said. They broke out during a routine transfer. They've split up and are moving through the station. We think they're looking for something. Or someone, Jake said grimly. Captain, we have a Vorthic civilian on the station. If they find her... Murphy's eyes widened. The woman in your quarters? Jake, we need to get her to a secure location. I'll handle it, Jake said. Where were the Zephyrians last seen? Levels 8 and 9. But Jake, they could be anywhere by now. Jake's communication device chirped. It was a message from his quarters security system. Someone had tried to access his door 3 times in the past 5 minutes. They're already there, Jake said, his voice deadly calm. Captain, I need a security team to level 12, Section C now. Jake, wait for backup. But Jake was already moving. He had fought Zephyrians for 3 years. He knew how they thought, how they moved, how they killed. And he knew they would not stop until they found Lyra. Jake reached his quarters to find the door partially melted. Zephyrian weapons used acid to cut through metal. He could hear sounds of struggle from inside his quarters. Jake drew his weapon and entered carefully. His living area was destroyed. Furniture was overturned, and there were acid burns on the walls. He could hear Lyra's voice from the bedroom, speaking rapidly in Vorthic. Jake moved quietly down the hallway. Through the bedroom doorway, he could see 2 Zephyrians cornering Lyra. She was pressed against the far wall, holding a piece of broken furniture like a weapon. Her yellow eyes were glowing brightly with fear and anger. One of the Zephyrians was speaking in its clicking, buzzing language. Jake understood enough to know it was threatening her. The other Zephyrian was moving closer, its razor-sharp claws. Extended. Jake had a choice. He could call for backup and wait for help. It would be the smart thing to do. But Lyra might be dead by then. Jake stepped into the doorway. "Hey, Bugs," he said calmly. "Remember me?" Both Zephyrians spun around. There. Compound eyes focused on Jake, and they made angry clicking sounds. Jake could see recognition in their alien faces. They knew who he was. They knew he was the human who had defeated their kind. "Yeah, that's right," Jake said, his voice cold as space. "I'm the one who burned your hive worlds. I'm the one who killed your queens. And now you're in my home, threatening someone under my protection." The first Zephyrian charged at Jake with a shrieking battle cry. Jake stepped aside and put 3 shots into its center mass. The creature fell, but was still moving. Zephyrians were hard to kill. The second Zephyrian was smarter. It grabbed Lyra and held her in front of itself like a shield. Its claw was pressed against her throat. One wrong move and she would be dead. "Let her go," Jake said quietly. "Your fight is with me, not her." The Zephyrian clicked something that Jake recognized as laughter. It pressed its claw harder against Lyra's throat. A thin line of blood appeared on her pale skin. That was when Jake's famous calm disappeared. What happened next was over in seconds. Jake moved with the speed and precision that had made him legendary during the war. He put one shot through the Zephyrian's compound eye, angled perfectly to avoid hitting Lyra. As the creature fell, Jake was already moving to catch her. Lyra collapsed into his arms, shaking with shock and fear. Jake held her tightly, checking her for injuries. The cut on her throat was shallow, but she was covered in her own blood and the aliens. "Are you hurt?" Jake asked urgently. "Lyra, talk to me. Are you hurt?" "I am okay," she whispered. "They come looking for me. They say they kill all Vorthik who serve humans." "You don't serve me," Jake said firmly. "You're under my protection." "There's a difference." Security teams arrived moments later, along with Dr. Grant. As the medic examined Lyra's injuries, Jake stood guard over them both. His hands were steady now, but his eyes were still cold with fury. Captain Murphy approached him carefully. "Jake, we found the other 4 Zephyrians. They're all dead." "Good," Jake said without emotion. "The station's secure. But Jake, we need to talk about what happened here." Jake looked at Murphy with those cold, dangerous eyes. "What about it?" "You fought through half the station to get here. You killed 2 armed Zephyrian warriors in close combat, all to protect 1 alien civilian. Your point?" Murphy was quiet for a moment. "My point is that people are going to notice. They're going to ask questions about why you risked so much for her." Jake looked at Lyra, who was sitting quietly while Dr. Grant bandaged her throat. She looked up at him with those strange yellow eyes, and Jake saw something there he had not seen before. Trust. Complete, absolute trust. "Let them ask," Jake said. "I don't care what people think." Later that evening, after the security teams had left and the damage had been assessed, Jake and Lyra sat together in what remained of his living area. Lyra had been quiet since the attack, but Jake could see she was thinking about something. "Jake," she said finally. "Yeah? Why you do this? Why you risk your life for me?" Jake thought about it. "Because you're innocent. Because you didn't deserve what happened to you. Because someone should. But I am not human. I am not your people." "No," Jake said. "But you're my responsibility. When I agreed to let you stay, I promised to protect you. I keep my promises." Lyra looked at him with wonder. "Your species very strange," she said. "You protect people you barely know." Jake's quarters had been repaired, but the scars from the Zephyrian attack remained. New furniture replaced what had been destroyed, but there were still burn marks on the walls where acid had eaten through the metal. Every time Jake looked at them, he remembered how close he had come to losing Lyra. The attack had changed things between them. Lyra no longer flinched when Jake moved quickly or spoke loudly. She had seen him fight to protect her, and that had broken down the last of her fear. Jake, for his part, found himself watching her more carefully, noticing small things about her that he had missed before. "You are different now," Lyra said one morning as Jake brought her the daily blood rations. "Since the attack, you watch me all the time." "I'm making sure you're safe," Jake said. "I am safe. You made sure of that." Lyra tilted her head, studying his face. "You are afraid it will happen again." Jake did not deny it. 6 Zephyrians almost killed you. What if next time there are more? What if next time I'm not here? "Then I will fight," Lyra said simply. "I am not helpless, Jake Morrison. My people may be peaceful, but we are not weak." "I know that. I saw you with that piece of furniture, ready to take on 2 armed warriors." Lyra smiled, showing her sharp fangs. "Vorthic mothers teach their children to fight when cornered. We just prefer not to be cornered." Over the following weeks, they began to share more about their lives before the war. Jake told Lyra stories about Earth, about the small farm, where he had grown up, about joining the coalition military to see the galaxy. Lyra told him about her homeworld, about the great libraries where she had worked, about studying human culture from across the stars. "I always wonder what humans were really like," Lyra said one evening. "The data files tell you facts, but not truth, not what it feel like to be human." "What's it feel like to be Vorthic?" Jake asked. Lyra thought for a moment. "Lonely now. Before the war, we were never alone. Vorthic live in family groups, sometimes 50 or 100 together. We share thoughts, share feelings. Now I am only one left that I know of. That must be hard, very hard. But less hard now. You make it less hard." Jake was learning to understand Lyra's way of speaking. Her galactic standard was improving, but she still struggled with complex ideas. Her simple words often carried deep meaning. They had established new routines. In the mornings, Jake would read reports while Lyra studied human cultural files on his computer. She was fascinated by human art, especially music. Jake had started playing Earth songs for her, and she would listen with intense concentration. "This music very sad," she said one day as Jake played an old ballad, "but also beautiful. How can something be sad and beautiful?" "I don't know," Jake admitted. "Maybe because the sadness makes the beauty more real. Vorthic music not like this. Our music is about harmony, about many voices joining together. Human music is about one voice crying out alone. Is that bad?" "Not bad, just different. It make me understand humans better. You are all alone inside your heads, so you make music to share what you feel." One evening, Jake was working late when he heard a sound from the bedroom. It was not loud, but it was wrong somehow. He found Lyra sitting on the floor beside her bed, rocking back and forth and making soft keening noises. "Lyra, what's wrong?" She looked up at him with tears in her yellow eyes. "I dream about home," she whispered. "I dream about my family, but when I wake up, they are still gone." Jake sat down on the floor beside her. "I'm sorry. I know it hurts." "Do you dream about the war?" Lyra asked. "Every night." "What do you dream?" Jake was quiet for a long moment. "I dream about the choices I made, the people who died because of my orders. Sometimes I dream about the Zephyrian hive worlds burning. Do you feel guilt?" "Every day." Lyra moved closer to him. "My people have." Saying, "Pain shared is pain halved. Joy shared is joy doubled." That's a good saying. Jake Morrison, you carry too much pain alone. Humans very strange this way. You think you must be strong all the time, never show weakness. If I don't stay strong, people die. But you are not in war now. You can be weak sometimes. You can let someone else be strong. Jake looked at her, this small, pale woman who had lost everything but still tried to comfort him. How are you strong? How do you keep going after losing your whole world? Because someone must remember, Lara said. Someone must carry the stories of my people, the knowledge, the love. If I give up, then everything dies with me. They sat together in the quiet of the bedroom, two broken people sharing their pain. Jake found that talking about his nightmares made them seem smaller somehow. Lyra found that speaking about her lost family kept their memory alive. The next morning brought a new crisis. Jake was called to a briefing with Captain Murphy and several other senior officers. When he arrived at the conference room, he found them studying tactical displays and looking grim. Jake, we have a problem, Captain Murphy said. Admiral Frank. Collins is coming to the station. Jake felt his stomach drop. Admiral Collins was a political officer, the kind of man who saw everything in terms of power and advantage. What does he want? He's conducting efficiency reviews of all senior personnel, said Commander Pete Walker, the station security chief. But we think he's really here about you. About me? About your attachment to the Vorthic woman, Murphy said bluntly. Word has gotten around about what happened during the Zephyrian attack. Some people are saying you're compromised. Compromised how? They're saying your judgment is affected by your emotional attachment to an alien. They're questioning whether you can be trusted with important decisions. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. My judgment is fine. We know that, Murphy said. But Collins doesn't. He sees a war hero who risked everything to save one alien civilian. He thinks that makes you weak. What does he want? We don't know yet. But Jake, you need to be careful. Collins has friends in high places. He could cause real problems for you. Jake returned to his quarters to find Lyra waiting for him with a concerned expression. She had learned to read his moods over the past weeks. Bad news? She asked. Maybe. Jake explained about Admiral Collins and the upcoming visit. Lyra listened without interrupting. This Admiral, he want to take me away from you? She asked when Jake finished. I don't know what he wants, but I won't let anyone hurt you. Jake. Morrison, Lyra said seriously, you must not fight this battle for me. If this man can hurt your career, your future, then you should let me go. No, you do not understand. I am one person. You can save many people with your position, your influence. You should not throw that away from me. Jake stared at her. You want me to abandon you? I want you to be smart. I want you to protect yourself. And I want you to stop telling me to give up on you, Jake said firmly. We're in this together now. That means we face problems together. That evening, Jake had trouble sleeping. He kept thinking about what Collins might do, what choices he might be forced to make. Around midnight, he heard soft footsteps in the living area. He found Lyra in the kitchen, preparing a cup of the herbal tea she had taught him to make. It was a Vorthic remedy for anxiety and sleeplessness. Cannot sleep? She asked. Too much. Thinking. Sit, she said, guiding him to a chair. I know something that help. Lyra placed her hands on Jake's shoulders and began to apply gentle pressure to specific points. It was a Vorthic relaxation technique, she explained, designed to calm the mind and release tension. My mother teach me this, she said as she worked. She say worry is like carrying stones. You must put them down to rest. Jake felt the tension, leaving his muscles as Lyra worked. Her touch was careful and precise, and he could feel his racing thoughts beginning to slow. Better? She asked after several minutes. Much better. Thank you. Jake Morrison, Lyra said softly. Whatever this Admiral want, whatever happen, I want you to know something. What? You saved my life. Not just from Zephyrians, but from despair. Before I come here, I think maybe better to die than live alone. But you show me that family is not just blood. Family is choice. Jake felt something warm spread through his chest. You're my family too, he said, the only family I have left. Then, we protect each other, Lyra said, no matter what come. As they sat together in the quiet kitchen, drinking tea and sharing comfortable silence, Jake realized that Admiral Collins could threaten his career, his position, even his freedom. But he could not threaten what really mattered. He could not break the bond that had formed between two lost souls who had found each other in the darkness. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Admiral Frank Collins arrived at Harmony Point 3 days later with a small fleet of ships and a team of inspectors. He was a tall man with cold gray eyes and a smile that never reached them. Jake had met his type before during the war. Men who fought battles with paperwork instead of weapons, who measured victory in political points rather than lives saved. Jake was summoned to the main conference room 2 hours after Collins arrived. He found the Admiral sitting behind a large desk, reviewing files on a portable computer. Collins did not look up when Jake entered. "Captain Morrison," Collins said without raising his eyes. "Please, sit down." Jake remained standing. "Admiral." Collins finally looked up, his cold eyes studying Jake's face. "You look tired, Captain. The stress of command wearing on you?" "I'm fine, sir. Are you?" "Because your recent behavior suggests otherwise." Collins touched his computer screen, and a holographic display appeared showing Jake's quarters. "You've been harboring an alien civilian in your personal quarters for over a month. Care to explain?" "There was a mistake in my requisition." "Request," Jake said. "I asked for a pet, and someone sent me a person instead." "A person," Collins repeated. "A Vorthik, a species known for violence and bloodthirsty behavior. Lyra is not violent." "Lyra?" Collins raised an eyebrow. "You're on a first-name basis with your pet?" "She's not my pet. She's a refugee who needed help." Collins leaned back in his chair. "Captain, I've reviewed your service record. You're one of our finest military minds. You've saved countless lives and protected dozens of worlds, which is why your current behavior is so concerning." "My behavior?" "Your attachment to this alien. Your willingness to risk your life and the lives of others to protect her. During the recent Zephyrian attack, you abandoned your post to rush to her aid." "I was not on duty," Jake said carefully. "Irrelevant. You put one alien's safety above the security of this entire station." Collins stood up and walked around the desk. "Captain, I'm going to be direct. Your emotional attachment to this creature has compromised your judgment." Jake felt anger building in his chest, but he kept his voice level. "Sir, my judgment is fine." "Is it? Because I have orders here that will test that claim." Collins picked up a data pad and handed it to Jake. "You're being reassigned to lead a new campaign against the Krillian Empire. It's a promotion, actually. You'll command an entire battle fleet." Jake looked at the orders. It was indeed a promotion, the kind of assignment that would make his career. The kind of opportunity that came along once in a lifetime. "There's just one condition," Collins continued. "The Vorthik goes to a research facility on Titan Station. Our scientists want to study her species' unique biology. Her cooperation would be ... valuable to the war effort." Jake's blood ran cold. He knew what research facilities did to alien subjects. It would be a slow death disguised as science. "She's not a test subject," Jake said. "She's a civilian under coalition protection." "She's an asset," Collins corrected. "And you're a military officer. You follow orders. What if I refuse?" Collins smiled that cold smile. "Then you'll face a court-martial for insubordination. Your career will be over, and the Vorthik will still go to the research facility." The only difference is that you'll be in a military prison instead of commanding a fleet. Jake stared at the orders in his hands. Everything he had worked for, everything he had fought for, was being used against him. Collins was offering him a choice between his future and Lyra's life. "You have 24 hours to decide," Collins said. "The transport for the Vorthik leaves tomorrow evening." Jake left the conference room, feeling like he had been punched in the stomach. He walked slowly back to his quarters, his mind racing. How could he choose between his career and Lyra's safety? How could he abandon her after everything they had been through? He found Lyra sitting at his desk, reading human literature on his computer. She looked up when he entered, and her expression immediately changed. "Bad news?" she asked. Jake sat down heavily on the couch. "They want to send you to a research facility. They want to study you." Lyra went very still. "Study me how? I don't know. But nothing good happens to aliens in Coalition research facilities. And if I refuse to go, they'll take you anyway. And I'll be court-martialed for protecting you." Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up and walked over to sit beside him on the couch. "Jake Morrison," she said softly, "you must take the promotion." "What? This admiral?" he offered. "You command a fleet, yes? This is big honor. You can save many lives with such position. I'm not abandoning you. You are not abandoning me. You are being smart. One life is not worth destroying career of greatest military leader in Coalition." Jake stared at her. "Don't you understand? They'll kill you. Maybe not quickly, but they'll kill you. Then I die knowing I did not destroy the man who saved my life." Lyra took his hands in hers. "Jake Morrison, you think I do not understand what you give up for me? You think I do not know what it cost you to protect me? I don't care about the cost. I care. Your life is more important than mine." "No," Jake said firmly. "It's not. Your life matters just as much as anyone else's." Lyra smiled sadly. "This is why humans so strange. You think all lives equal, even alien lives. Even monster lives like mine. You're not a monster. To most people, I am. To this admiral, I am just thing to be used or discarded. But to you ... double quotes." She paused, searching for the right words. "To you, I am person. I am family. This gift you give me, this feeling of being valued, is more than I ever hoped for." That night, Jake could not sleep. He sat at his communication terminal, staring at a blank message screen. He had started to write letters to old friends, the fellow officers who owed him favors from the war. But what could he say? Help me save my alien pet? Help me disobey direct orders? At 3 a.m, he made his decision. Jake spent the next 18 hours making communication calls. He contacted every favor owed to him, every debt of honor from the war. He called old soldiers who had served under him, commanders who had fought beside him, politicians who owed their lives to his tactical brilliance. He did not ask for much, just small interventions. A delay here, a bureaucratic complication there, a request for review, a demand for proper documentation, a question about legal authority. By noon the next day, Admiral Collins had received messages from 12 different Coalition departments, all questioning various aspects of his orders. The Department of Alien Affairs wanted to review Lyra's refugee status. The Ethics Committee wanted to examine the research proposal. The Judge Advocate General's office wanted to clarify the legal basis for forced transfer. Collins stormed into Jake's quarters that evening, his face red with anger. "What did you do?" he demanded. "I followed proper procedures," Jake said calmly. "I made sure all appropriate departments were informed of your plans. You called in favors. You used your war record to interfere with official orders. I used my legal right to request review of questionable commands. Collins stared at him with pure hatred. This won't stop anything. It will just delay it. Maybe. Or maybe someone will ask why the Coalition's greatest war hero is willing to risk his career to protect one alien civilian. Maybe they'll wonder what that says about our values. You're making a mistake, Morrison. I have friends in high places. So do I, Jake said. And some of them remember what it means to protect the innocent. Collins left without another word. 3 hours later, Jake received a message from Coalition Command. Admiral Collins had been recalled to headquarters for emergency consultations. The transfer orders for Lyra had been suspended pending review. Dr. Grant arrived at Jake's quarters. An hour later with a bottle of Earth whiskey and a big smile. I heard the news, she said. Collins is gone and his orders are under investigation. For now, Jake said, but he'll be back. Men like him always come back. Maybe, but you bought time. And you showed the Coalition that some things are more important than following orders blindly. Lyra emerged from the bedroom, where she had been hiding during Collins' visit. Is it over? She asked. For now, Jake said. Lyra looked at him with wonder. You fight the Admiral. You risk everything for me? I told you before, we're family. Family protects each other. Even when it cost everything? Especially then. Later that evening, Jake and Lyra stood at the observation window in his quarters, watching ships come and go in the darkness of space. Lyra had been quiet since learning about Jake's actions. Jake Morrison, she said finally. Yeah? Why you do this? Really, why? You could have great career, command many ships, save many worlds. Instead, you choose to protect one alien who look like monster from human stories. Jake thought about it for a long moment. Do you remember what you told me about pain shared and joy shared? Yes. Well, I think family works the same way. When you care about someone, their safety becomes more important than your own success. Their happiness becomes part of your happiness. Even if they're not same species as you, especially then. It would be easy to protect another human. That's just biology, just instinct. Protecting someone different, someone the rest of the world sees as strange or dangerous, that's a choice. That's what makes it matter. Lyra leaned against him, and Jake put his arm around her shoulders. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Jake Morrison, Lyra said softly,